Tonight, guys, we're going to talk about the two. You have lots of vocab. Most of it should seem fairly familiar to you, and if it doesn't, you will definitely know it by the end of the night. So we have two political parties in the history of the United States, and those two political parties have changed over time. Neither one of them are written into the Constitution, and if you first listen to our President George Washington, the first president of the United States, he warns against any political parties. He warns us against not getting involved with political parties and with foreign nations. We don't listen to him very well. So in his farewell address, he says these things are very harmful. First, two political parties, and you guys know these really well, Federalists and Anti-Federalists, and you'll see how they change over time, but you can still see the links that we have in our Democrats and Republicans today that date all the way back to these two founding political parties. In the United States, we have what is called a two-party system. We have Democrats and we have Republicans. And of course, we know that those two have changed over time, but we also know that it's very difficult for a third party to become a major player in our two-party system. So our electoral college and our electoral system discourages minor parties from participating and really even existing. Parties usually align with either liberals or conservatives, of course, and there's a huge political spectrum. So yes, there are variances between different candidates who even run as to how liberal or how conservative they are in ideology. What ends up happening is that usually these people have to form a consensus, and it's a general agreement about the issues that they're going to have, that they're going to face and combat in that particular election. So third parties, or what we call minor parties, are going to be smaller parties. They're going to have to compete with power with the two major political parties, or the Democrats and the Republicans. So third parties have actually played a really important role in our history. If you've ever heard of the Bull Moose Party or the Populist Party, those two are probably two of the most foundational third parties in our nation. So third parties faced a lot of obstacles. What ends up happening is that Democrats and Republicans automatically get on the ballot. Third party candidates have to get thousands of signatures on petitions just to even get on the ballot. They also face financial difficulties, so they have to receive at least 5% of the vote on a previous election to even qualify for federal money. And 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is quite a few number of voters. So in this election in 2016, we have one candidate. His name is Gary Johnson. He's a libertarian. He will be on all 50 states as the third party candidate for the presidency, but he's the only third party candidate to have enough both money and signatures to be able to have his name on the ballot in all 50 states. And of course, if you don't have your name on the ballot in all 50 states, the possibilities of you even getting that 5%, much less winning, are almost slim to none. So people say if your vote's not really going to count that way. And although you might think about that, a lot of people do join a third party for a number of reasons. Ideology being number one. Third parties tend to have exclusive focus on particular issues. And so if you can find an issue, then that might be the thing for you. A dissatisfaction with the two major political parties that we have. A lot of people just kind of break away and say, okay, they're not doing it right anymore. Let me do it, and let me do it my way. And of course, location. Third parties definitely tend to be tied to areas of the country. So for instance, the Populist Party that I was mentioning is a party full of farmers that were kind of angry about what the government was doing and angry about how the government was spending and not supporting the farmers of this nation. And so they started their own political party. And of course, we don't have very many farmers in the big cities. So we have a couple of types of different third political parties. We have single party issues, and they are promoting basically one policy matter. So the best example here would be the Prohibitionist Party, and basically what they wanted to do is to ban the sale of alcohol. They didn't talk about any of the other hot topic issues, the taxes and reform, and how are we going to do minimum wage, or what does healthcare look like? None of those. All they wanted to concern their efforts about was alcohol. We have ideological parties, and basically that's supporting a political doctrine or a political philosophy. So some good examples, we have socialist, communist, libertarian, although they are not the same at all. The idea that you are going to support a political philosophy, is really important to ideological parties. We also, what we have referred to in the past as splinter parties. And basically, if you take a party that is already in existence, either the Democrats or Republicans, and you have a subgroup of people who are upset or angry about whatever's going on, usually they can transfer over into another party, and so it's almost a subgroup of that original party. So the Tea Party is a good example of this one. It's one of the most recent ones, and the Republicans were upset about the Republican Party, and so they made their own party, the Tea Party. And of course, we have independent candidates, and so third parties can basically found themselves and a strong foundation around one particular person. So Ross Perot ran in the election of both 92 and 96 as an independent, and so people can register obviously as an independent, but what he was doing is basically forming an entire political party around one person. All right, so the other different types of party systems that we have here in the United States, we know that we have a two-party system where we also have third parties, but there are also countries, China in particular, who have a one-party system. Usually it's a dictatorship. The party, the government, it's all the exact same. So the People's Republic of China. We can call it a republic, and yes, the people may be able to vote. The problem is there's only one person on the ballot, so not exactly the most democratic of all voting. There are also multi-party systems. This is a government where there are 3 or more parties and they compete for control in the government. You can see here that Canada has 3 parties. Germany has 5 parties. Germany actually has about 50 different parties, but the 5 major ones are the ones that form these things called coalitions. And basically, that's a temporary alliance of different groups of people in order to be able to be one of those competing 5 parties for spots in the government. And Israel has about 20 political parties that do the same thing.